Hello, and welcome to the House of Ham. This is Bob WV7W, and today we're going to take a look at the Radioddity GD-88 dual band DMR and analog HT. Now, I'm going to do this a little bit differently than other reviews you may have seen. I'm going to do this from the DMR newbie's point of view. There, I said it. I am a DMR newbie. Hello, my name is Bob, and I'm a DMR newbie. Now, I've been a ham for about 26 years, but I'm brand new to the VHF, UHF digital modes like DMR, Yaesu System Fusion, and D-Star. This review is going to be from the new DMR operator's perspective. Now, the Radioddity GD-88 is a dual-band 7-watt analog and digital transceiver. It has GPS and can do both digital and analog APRS, both sending and receiving, including APRS messages. It comes with a 3,000 milliamp hour battery and a charging cradle that uses 12 volts DC, so you can charge on the go with the right cable. Finally, it comes with a programming cable that allows you to use the free programming software. It only works on Windows, though, and you will need this software to do a lot of the programming. Some of the things can be set by the front panel, but there's a lot that can't. It can store up to 4,000 channels with 250 channels per zone. Now, you can think of zones like memory banks, and you can name them something meaningful like hotspot or local or analog, whatever you like. And you can have quite a few of them. And it can store up to 300,000 contacts, which as of today would hold the entire 225,000 contacts in the database with some room to spare. And it can monitor 2 channels at the same time, even if both are digital. This is something even the venerable Anytone 878 can't do. It is even full duplex, so satellite work should be possible. Now, you can do quite a bit of programming from the front panel, but not everything. Now, you can get right on the air using either simplex or repeater by going into VFO mode by entering the receive frequency. And you can get into VFO mode by long pressing on this button right here. And then once you do that, you can get in and you can edit the channel by pressing this button here. So once you get in there, you can set whether it's digital or analog, the receive and transmit frequencies. And this does not appear to do automatic repeater offsets, so you're going to have to do that yourself. Now you can set the power of either high, which is 7 watts, or low, which is 2.5 watts. And you can also set the tones, but the menu is less than descriptive. It says by default signaling off. And when you select it, it goes between CT-CSS, DCS, and DCS reverse, and then, of course, signal off. Once you select CT-CSS, you can go to the TX sub-item, which is below it, which lets you select the tone frequency. Now, below that is another signaling off menu item, which seems odd, but if you look below that, you can see RX sub-item. So you can set the receive and transmit tones separately, although I don't know why you would do that. One thing I've not been able to figure out is how to create a new channel from the front panel. You can either save the settings back to the VFO or to a selected channel. Now, if you go to selected channel, you can only choose one of the existing, and this is a pretty big oversight in my opinion. Hopefully they'll fix that with a future firmware. And another thing I had issue with was when I was setting it up to work with my hotspot. Now, my hotspot is set up to use time slot 2. And if I set the channel up using time slot 2, and say using the Parrot talk group, which allows you to test if you're getting out, once you transmit into Parrot, it will repeat back your transmission so you can hear your audio. The problem is it was going out and it was even coming back because I could see it on the front panel, but I couldn't hear any received audio. What I found out is that you have to select off instead of time slot 2 if you're using the front panel, or by setting it to on if you're using the software, and it will work with the hotspot. And this could be really frustrating, particularly to a new DMR user, and maybe even some more experienced users. Another little thing is that you have to select a receive group, or you will not hear any incoming signals. Now, you can get around this by pressing this button here and going into promiscuous mode, but I don't understand why they did that. And my understanding is that the receive groups were so you could listen to multiple talk groups at once. One last little gripe is that the transmit audio by default is a little weak. And you can go in there and you can adjust the mic gain, but you have to do that from the software. This is really something that should be able to be done from the front panel. Now let's take a look at the menu system by pressing this button. And you can get into the menu, which reminds me kind of an old flip phone menu system. It's got some icons. And so we can get into the menu by pressing this button here. And then you can see that we've got contacts, messages, call log, your scanning functions, your zone and channels. So channels go into zones, and this is where you can select your zones and channels. You cannot create new zones or channels from the radio that I can tell. I think you have to do that from the CPS software. These are kind of some of your local settings, like your keypad lock, backlighting, the LED on top, the display mode. And this really just is what things are displayed on each line. So the channel and name, channel and frequency, just the channel number. Your Vox, for anybody that uses that. Your channel switch, I'm not sure what that one is. Factory reset, you want to go back to the factory default. Your repeater, if you want to do crossband repeating, or same frequency repeating as well. And then that's that menu. Parameters is just some more. So that's your timeout timer, your power settings. So high power, low power. Slot repeat settings. So I'm not sure exactly how that works. I have to dig into that a bit. And then sleep mode, when it goes to sleep. Your tones. So you can set the tones of the keypad. You can also set the tones for when you start a private call, when you start a group call, when you end a group call. So all those settings are under that menu. And then appendix is where you get to things like your GPS. That's where you can turn your GPS on. It's off right now. And then you'll be able to go through. The kind of funny one here is the calibrator. That is where you can set your time zone so that the clock will show right with your time zone. So if you go here and go to select, and you can select what time zone you're in. Then you can go to FM radio if you want to listen to FM radio stations. It does work. It sounds okay. I mean, it's not gonna compete with a nice stereo, but you can at least listen to news and such. You can set your date and time here, but you can also have it set by the GPS. DTMF. I'm not sure exactly how this works, and I think you can use one of the programmable buttons to be able to do DTMF. Headset and speaker settings, and then your APRS settings. Then you can record, so you can set it to record your conversations. And the device info. And then channel edit, which is what we got into a minute ago. This radio seems to be of very good quality, and it's very sturdy, almost commercial feel to it. And it's a bit heavy, but most of that heft is due to the battery. And you do get a lot of battery life for that heft. The screen is nice and bright and easily readable, even in bright sunlight. So how does this thing work on the air? So far, very well, both on analog as well as DMR. And once you get past the little quirks, this seems to be a very solid little radio for a really good price, which at the time of this video is $220. So do I recommend it? I think it is a great radio, and once they work some of the little quirks out with the firmware updates, I don't think you could go wrong. So do you go right out and get one? Well, if you don't mind being kind of a beta tester. I think the hardware is solid, and once they do some firmware upgrades, I think it has great potential. Now, is it going to beat out the Anytone 878? Only time will tell on that one, but it does have some advantages like dual receive. It doesn't have Bluetooth. That's one thing that the Anytone has that this does not. Now, one thing particularly for new hams is that this is not a simple radio to program as, say, a Japanese analog radio. Now, I qualified that as I think it's still easier to program than some of the Chinese analog radios like, say, the Baofeng UV5R. Now, that being said, DMR is a bit complex until you get the hang of it, and this radio is no exception. In fact, due to some of the initial quirks, it's going to be harder to get set up than some of the older radios that have matured. As always, thanks for watching. And if you found this helpful, please hit that like button, as it tells YouTube to show it to more hams. And if you want to know when my next video comes out, consider subscribing and hit that bell button to get notified. Until next time, 73s.